My dear Cedric, who would have thought that a perambulation to the local library would have produced such wonderful entertainment?
True, mon cher. The most gorgeous piece of street theatre.
It's a great pity that it wasn't forenounced, for I think that the artiste who staged the event deserved a greater audience.
But perhaps the piece was meant to be spontaneous.
Quite so, but it must have taken ages to prepare and rehearse.
And yet it was projected so brilliantly.
No script as such, but it didn't need words.
The spoken tongue may have distracted from the visual delight which was presented for us.
But who was the creator of such a spectacle?
I'm at a loss. For I could not discern who was directing the piece.
I must admit I was awestruck by the audaciousness of the work.
Yes, yes. It was breathtaking in its execution.
We were so fortunate to be, if you will excuse the brutal vulgarity of the phrase, the right place at the right time.
Mon ami, of course, you are forgiven for uttering such coarse and low-born sentiment. I fully understand the occasional requirement to express oneself in a forceful, and if one may say, in an almost rustic way.
Thank you, mon cher. Let us compare notes on the event. So much was happening at the same time that one of us may have missed a subtle nuance added by the artist.
Indeed. We had just crossed over Tennyson Road at its junction with the High Street.
The little green man was flashing at us, indicating it was safe to do so.
Yes, we were adjacent to the entrance to the tea rooms when I heard a screech of tyres behind me.
That was what first drew my attention to the fact that the piece had just commenced.
Yes, I whirled around just in time to see the first part.
That was when the blue van, which had shot out of Tennyson Road, tried to avoid colliding with the small white bus travelling along the high street.
Yes. For some reason, he completely failed to arrest his forward motion and struck the vehicle amidship.
We have to ask ourselves if this was meant.
Oh, yes, I believe so.
Now, what I'm trying to evaluate was the screeching of the tyres we heard preceding the coming together of the vehicles a call for help?
Oh, you mean a lament of despair?
Yes, the tortured cries of the rubber as they scraped along the road surface towards their fate.
I understand your reasoning, and I am in full agreement. The acrid smell and the black smoke would indicate a life which had, in all senses, burned out.
Let us concentrate on the blue van for a moment and its driver. He was enveloped in some sort of large inflatable cushion.
Oh, yes. Could it be that the young man who was propelling the vehicle was trying to hide his face
in an attempt to somehow draw a veil over his very existence?
An act of trying to deny his very being?
Quite.
Now, let us turn to the people on the small bus.
Yes.
I thought the part played by the woman in the yellow coat was utterly sensational.
Oh,
divine.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. She was indeed the star of the show.
She whimpered a few times before slumping out of the broken window.
Yes, the way she just hung there almost motionless was sublime.
And the slow drip, drip of that fake blood
Yes.
as it gently fell from her cranium was just mesmerising.
Quite a contrast to the man in the brown zip-up jacket.
Oh, definitely, my dear Rafe. You and I are both broad-minded.
Yes?
We have sat through works by Pinter and Roy Williams without a qualm.
Oh, yes.
But that man, although I believe he was an integral part of the piece, was completely narcissistic.
Oh, the way he kept on shouting over and over, "My leg is broken, my leg is broken."
And how very sensitive of you, mon ami, to leave out the base language that he was also shrieking.
I thought his continued use of industrial jargon somewhat overbearing.
Yeah, quite so, quite so. It was as if he was trying to draw undue attention to himself by uttering those expletives.
It was unfortunate, but it didn't detract from my utter enjoyment of the work.
Yes, I agree. But now, we must look at the role of the extras. From where did they all appear?
I viewed some of them exiting from shop doorways.
I noticed others seemed to just abandon the vehicles in which they were travelling.
How they quickly crowded around the small bus.
Yes, yes. At one point, I feared that they may have obstructed our view of the piece.
Oh, quite so, quite so.
So many extras. It must have cost the director of the piece a small fortune to pay for them all.
But then again, would the cost really matter?
Very true, very true. It was the artistic expression which was the most important thing.
Yes. The artist needing to exhibit his views on the modern world with all of its contradictory benevolences and vices.
If I may ask, my dear Rafe, what were your thoughts on the arrival of the emergency services?
The police, the ambulances, the fire brigade. I actually found it most heartwarming.
How so?
They were a metaphor for hope.
Yes, yes, yes. When events are bleak, there's always, and now it is my turn, to ask your forgiveness for uttering a vulgarism, light at the end of the tunnel.
Quite. And you are forgiven.
Well, I was totally moved by the experimental realism of the concept.
I enjoyed the simplicity of its structure. A sudden crescendo descending into the subsequent fallout.
A work of brilliant magnitude.
Yet the creator remained anonymous.
Boo! Shame on him! And yet, my dear Rafe, I believe I feel the same way as you.
Very perspicacious of you. Yes, I was hoping that there could have been a small role for us to play.
To have taken part in such an ingenious piece of street theatre would have been absolute blizzikins.
Who knows? We may have been noticed.
Our talents may have been brought to the attention of a wider and appreciative audience.
Could we have heard the boards at dear old Stratford-upon-Avon beckoning to us?
Alas! Alas!
Mrs Dobson.
Sorry I'm late this morning, Mr. Ralph, Mr. Cedric, but there's been an accident in the high street and it's full of police and
Oh,
ambulances.
indeed.
Gott.